Welcome back to Earth Station Trek, a show where we trek from the early days on NBC to the future on Paramount Plus and everywhere in between. I'm Charles Kelso, and it's my privilege to introduce the Earth Station Trek crew: Keith Johnson,
They straight up murdered Twovix.
Alan Seiler,
Moopsie.
and Veronica Dash.
Hi.
And welcome back. Yeah,
Yay.
yeah.
We're live.
And what a comeback.
Well,
Yeah.
it's been 2 weeks. Last week we had a pre-recorded show because
Yeah.
we were at Dragon Con.
Mhm.
So it's exciting to get back. Alan, I know you did several panels at Dragon Cons that were Star Trek related.
I did two
Okay.
in the track. One of them was the Salamander Awards, which was our favorite bad episode. So not ones that are terrible, just ones that are crappy, but we love anyway,
Yes.
Okay.
and that are fun to watch.
Yes.
Yeah.
No shock, the winner this year was Spock's brain.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're saying like a and the Children Shall Lead wouldn't qualify because it's not fun to watch, whereas Spock's Brain is fun to watch.
You got it.
Am I getting this right? Okay.
Yeah, you got it, man. That's how it is.
Okay.
There was a lot of good contenders. Of course, the Ghost Candle was on there.
Right.
Sadly, I love that episode. I don't know, but
I
people
like
are-
Threshold, and the awards are named after it.
Exactly. Exactly. And then I did the other one was something.
Okay.
I swear to
Good.
God, I can't remember what it was. but it was fun. We had a great time doing it, and it was with John Jackson Miller. Who, of course, the author who's written a bunch of Star Trek novels, who has been a guest on our show,
Right.
and that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we had two Star Trek related shows.
Yeah.
We had an adult one and we had an all ages one. And because we had two, for our all ages one, we sort of we decided to, instead of trying to get two Star Trek shows together at the same time, we would just take our oldest Star Trek shows and give them one last one last hurrah, as it were. Because our Star
They
Trek
are
material,
very dated.
yeah, our Star Trek material, a lot of it dates from like 2013, 2014. Some like the newest stuff is like 2017. So we need a new Star Trek show. Which we're gonna do for next year.
Nice.
But it's a lot of like J.J. Abrams jokes and CBS All Access jokes and things like that. So it's like, hey, remember when this was what we were all mad about on Star Trek?
Right.
Remember when we were mad about the movies?
Right. But it was good though, because our bad reboot show we've been doing forever and it has never gone right. It's that show's cursed. There's always some kind of, last year, like the audio files would cut out halfway through, and it's just, there's always something. We did it at Metrotham, and they didn't have a sound set up, so we had to use a little amp that we had in the car, and it wasn't loud enough, and
Yeah.
it was something. So it was nice to get through that show before it goes in the drawer. And
Yeah.
we've got some ideas for a all new Star Trek show next year with new characters and new puppets. And I mean, not even just the material's old, the puppets are old. We built these puppets in
Yeah.
like 2013.
Right.
So the puppets are getting to be 10 years old.
Wow.
And then we had our adult oriented show, which was a little bit of experiment for us because it was mixing in like the puppetry and burlesque, which is a lot of moving parts for a live show, especially in a space it's not a theater, right? So it's sort of an improvised space anyway.
Yeah.
It was an experiment for them as well because they've never had counter programming to the big Star Trek dance. Like they have their big dance party, Starbase 80, which starts
Yeah.
the same time as our show. So neither us or the track knew if anyone would even show up to our show or if everyone's
Right.
going to be at the dance. But we had
packed the room.
we had a packed house. They were thrilled. Yeah, invited us to do it again next year, like on the spot. So
Yeah.
Well, the nice thing about that is that your show is 45 minutes. There's still plenty of time for
Right.
people to go to the dance after.
Right. Yeah.
So
And
yeah.
like all things, it doesn't get going in the first hour anyway.
Yeah. You don't show up to a dance when it
No.
starts. Yeah.
Absolutely not. Well, the one show of yours that I saw, the family oriented one, was very good, and I really enjoyed it and loved seeing some of the pieces that I recognized performed once again. Well, and actually some of the pieces that I only know from video, seeing them done live, which was
Yeah.
nice.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we it was fun. We had a good time. We had good crowds for all of our shows, and I mean our show in the puppetry track was like mayhem. Like they had to turn like as many people away as got into the show.
That's
there was,
crazy.
There were
yeah,
2 lines forming, and then they merged, and then people were getting pushed back, and
Yeah.
they were getting upset, and I was like, "Hee hee hee! I used to be that person."
we don't like when that happens.
No, we
but
do not
it's-
like when that happens, but I was very amused because
It's-
that's
yeah.
happened to me, and I was like, "Oh, now it's happening for me.
Yeah.
That's nice." Thanks for them.
No,
It made
it's
me
not
feel
nice
good.
for it to happen. But
No.
yeah. But
Just out of curiosity, something that we should ask really, we're probably doing like bios of each other. But do y'all get nervous before a show? Because
No.
I've spoken a lot in my life and I get nervous before, but once I'm out, I'm not nervous.
I used to get very nervous before, just like you say. Once I'm
Mhm.
out, I told Veronica one time, it's like when you're a kid and you jump off a bridge, like
Yeah.
into the lake, and like you're really nervous to like go to the bridge, and you're nervous to climb up there. But once you jump, it's easy. You're just falling. You're not nervous anymore, right? You've done the hard part. It's like getting up
Yeah.
on stage is the hard part. Once it's go time, I'm usually not nervous. But
Yeah.
I told her this year, like our family shows, I think it has my nerves entirely have been cured because we did our 2 adult shows were so complex and stressful. Like I just need to do something
Uh-huh.
really hard first, and then our regular shows just seem easy.
Not only that,
Yeah.
but these are ones we've been doing for 10 years.
Yeah.
So we knew the material, and we still need the script, of course.
Right.
But we knew the material, and we were familiar with it enough that we didn't have to be like staring at the script or worried about
we're just
missing our cues or
more
anything.
comfortable with what we're doing
Yeah.
with the audio cues. And with a puppet show, there's an additional complexity because it's like doing a stage show where none of the actors can stand or lift their own arms or talk.
Mm.
You know, and so you have to do everything for them.
And the thing that holds up their arm might fall out while you're
Right.
trying to get them changed.
Yeah,
Or
an eyeball might fall off, that
Yeah.
sort of thing. Yeah. So
I would love to see that kind of actual theater
yeah.
where people can't hold themselves up and
Like
move
Weekend
their
at
arms.
Bernie's.
Exactly.
Right.
I'm sorry I missed it. I usually go to Dragon Con every year. I didn't still feel quite up to it because when I go, I literally sleep 2 or 3 hours a night,
oh yeah, that was
and
us.
I go all day
Mhm.
long. Like,
Yeah.
I love nothing more than getting a chili dog from that guy who has a stand on the street at 3 o'clock in the morning on Peachtree Street.
Right.
And I just didn't feel up to it this year, but I saw a lot of you guys online. I saw you and I saw Alan, pictures of y'all doing the interviews. And it's just
Yeah.
one of my things. I always think when I see people perform, whether it's like Alan, you with music or just doing interviews, I always wonder, do people get nervous? Because you listen to actors, like I've listened to a lot of Star Trek actors, and the number of actors who are nervous is amazing.
Mhm.
And then they do the thing and they're fine.
Yeah, I'm not a nervous guy.
Yeah, me
Usually
Mm.
before we play, my band
Mhm.
plays, I just want to play. I just get
Right.
anxious because I want to
Yeah,
start.
I'm ready for it to
Ah.
go. Yeah, I'm ready for it to go.
Yeah,
Let's do this thing.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's go time, people.
Cool. I'm actually
Okay.
quiet before the show, if anybody believes that.
Well-
No, we don't.
Our good buddy Wayne says,
Wayne.
nervous? How about absolute paranoia? Was an entertainer in a past life.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I've seen the pictures of Wayne. Wayne was a musician in the Marines. I've seen the pictures, brother.
Oh, cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, singing and everything.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, we were so busy through Dragon Con because after every evening we had to get back here and then get re-prepped and reloaded for the next day's shows.
Wow.
I mean, to the point that after immediately following our Friday night show, they were doing a puppetry film screening, and they were screening 3 of the shorts that we made that were originally part of the Hulanta's virtual TARDIS. But I've been sort of sitting on them for a long time. And
Nice.
but it was the first public screening of short films that I've made, and I was too busy to go. And
Oh, man.
so I would have loved to have been in
And
there.
there was a talk back
Wow.
after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was just like, I got it. I'll be up and I won't sleep. I'll have to come right back after we loaded. I have to go. I have to make the decision to go. And which
Right.
sucks, but it's nice. It's a good problem to have to be that busy.
You guys were really busy, and you got
Yeah.
interviewed by DCTV, which was
Mhm.
really cool.
Yeah.
They reached out to us and they wanted to do a little profile on us. And so we said, sure. And
That's
so
awesome.
Gosh darn it, you didn't bring any honey.
Oh, we didn't.
it's one of the things, like you feel good about yourself because you're getting interviewed, and then the guy interviewing you is in a Winnie the Bear costume, and it brings you
Right.
back down.
There's one other Trek related thing that I want to mention, and that was every year the Georgia Philharmonic does a full concert,
Oh.
like 80-piece orchestra does a full concert at Dragon Con. And this year they were marking certain anniversaries. And one of the pieces that they featured was a suite of the theme and a suite of pieces from Star Trek, not Beyond, Star Trek Into Darkness.
Okay.
And man, it was phenomenal.
Wow.
Oh.
First of all, it was a great concert, but second of all, I feel like that piece that they did, that Star Trek piece, was one of the highlights because it has that very recognizable theme that everyone loves, and then it's got all this complexity to it, and it was just an amazing show.
Wow, I'm sorry I couldn't see that. Yeah, we didn't get to do much. We went to the Strange New Worlds panel.
The first one on Friday.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and we got to go have a photo op with the Strange New Worlds cast.
Yeah, that's
with,
awesome.
Sally Rose Gooding and Anson Mount and Ethan Peck and
Elaine Sweatman.
Christina Chong.
Yep.
Yeah.
Elaine Sweatman was there.
She was like right in front of us. She was like a couple of people in front of us in line.
Yeah, we saw them there.
Yeah.
But they were super cool.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah. I
Nice to
did
hear.
the thing that I usually do and got in trouble for something that I always do because I always bring the little finger puppets of the characters and I brought them in and I was giving them to them, not necessarily like for them to hold in the picture, but sure you can hold them in the picture, but to give it to them. And they're like, no, we can't do that. We can't hold them.
The guy
in the
had to
picture.
swoop in and snatch them all up.
I was like, oh no,
there's a strike going on. You can't hold
Exactly.
puppets of their characters.
I
Exactly.
felt so bad because I do
But-
that every year, but I did give it to them later and they were very pleased. Celia was especially so excited to be able to
That
receive
is
the puppet.
nice.
So
Yeah. But I saw that they were, and at least some people, they were signing like character photos, not like their own headshots, but them on set and in character and in costume.
Yeah,
And
so
I thought they
can
weren't
sign
supposed to.
So it's not that they can't sign the stuff; they can't provide the stuff.
So
you
other
can
people brought it
bring-
with them.
Right. So they go to like the dealer's room and get photos and get the signature.
Which
A thought I had watching all y'all take pictures with them is from a fan's perspective. They always talk about whether Star Trek is better as a television show or as a movie franchise. And one of the things that I thought about when I see a lot of these things is when you have movie stars, nothing wrong with that, like Chris Pine or Zoe Saldana or something, and they do Star Trek, they do it every now and then. They do a movie and then they may not do another movie for 3, 4, 5 years. And even if they're really down with it, you're not going to see them as much necessarily at conventions, except maybe for, the movie. But when you have people, even like people like Miss Gooding, who is a Broadway star, Cecilia Chong, Anson Mount, they do these TV shows. And if nothing else for that year, they're a part of it. And so you see them more and you get more fan access.
Right.
And I love that because I've seen so many pictures of Anson Mount. He just genuinely seems happy to be there. It's
he
not
really
he'll
was.
that's just cool.
Yeah, I got to when I brought him his puppet. It was Sunday. It was the last day he was there. And at one of the panels earlier in the day that I didn't get to go to because we were doing our Star Trek puppet show, he had asked the people to come to his table so he could get them to tell him the strangest thing they've seen at Dragon Con. So I was like, "Oh, I'm going to bring him his," and he's recording it for his podcast because he has a podcast.
Oh, cool.
And so I was like, "Oh, this is perfect. I can be a recording and I can give him his finger puppet." So I was like, "The strangest thing I have seen at Dragon Con is a finger puppet of a starship captain of a very strange ship." But I did not want to say Strange New Worlds on there.
Yeah.
Made sure of that. But and then I apologized for the
Nice.
He's like, no, this is the coolest finger puppet I have ever seen. So
And how many of those are there?
I know, right?
Yeah.
Let me get a couple of comments from Matt. He says it felt like the puppetry track was really rocking at Dragon Con this year.
They always do.
They always do. And this year they had so many people from Avenue Q, and I did not get to go to any of the Avenue Q panels because they were either right before I was supposed to do a show somewhere else or at the same time as one of our shows. And I'm like,
Yeah. And he also says that Garrett Wong did a great job moderating the Strange New Worlds +1 Discovery actor Q&A.
Yeah. Emily
Coots was
Emily Coots, yep.
There was one panel while she was on it with him.
Yep. I wish I'd seen that one. I got to interview, I did the Q&A for Amanda Gill, who plays, she's on the most recent 3 seasons of Doctor Who. She plays the companion character. And this year was a strange situation because we weren't allowed to mention any properties that any actor had been associated with, and questions from the audience they could not ask via microphone. They only were able to submit questions by Discord.
Yeah,
and
I ran into an issue with that.
It was a very strange situation, but I saw a lot of positive feedback from it, and people enjoyed the interviews, and people liked the Discord system. I was very surprised by the whole thing, but at least in my session, it worked really well.
Yeah, I couldn't get it when I went to the Star Trek panel because I always ask them what's your favorite musical and would you like to sing something from it?
Yeah.
But I scanned the link and it took me up because I had already preloaded the Dragon Con thing into my Discord, but it wasn't letting me post anything in there, and no one that I could find that was a volunteer that was in here knew anything about it at all whatsoever. I don't think they even knew what I was talking about.
No, sorry about that.
It worked for somebody because
it worked for a lot of people. There was a lot of people
Yeah.
asking questions, and that was really cool.
Yeah.
But I did get to talk to Christina Chong. Her favorite musical is Chicago.
Okay.
Nice.
There we go. I got one answer.
There you go. Nice.
Awesome. Yeah.
Which I saw in New York years ago with Nana Visitor starring in Chicago.
Oh wow.
Oh, that's cool. And
Yeah.
and what is Runa's favorite musical?
I didn't ask about Runa's favorite musical. I really should.
There was
have.
somebody there in that dress though,
Yeah.
with the little
Yes.
stuffed dog.
Yes.
And, like nailed it.
There were
Yeah.
2 people. One of them was in the masquerade and won Best in Show.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
They should. That's a great costume, and they really, the one I saw really pulled it off.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Our good buddy Clarence from Discussing Trek says, glad you guys had a great Dragon Con.
We did.
Yes.
We did.
We did.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Well, if you're listening on the audio podcast, we'll take a quick break right here and promote a fellow ESO Network podcast show. But don't go away, because when we get back, we'll be talking about the season premiere of Star Trek Lower Decks. So stay right there. And if you're watching with us live, we're just going to continue on and get on to the discussion topic. Veronica, you want to bring us back in with a spoiler warning?
Boo yip, boo yip, boo yip, boo yip. Spoilers. Boo yip, boo yip, boo yip. Spoilers.
Boo yip, boo yip. I
Yep.
love it.
Yep.
And that's spoilers for the first 2 episodes of Star Trek Lower Decks Season 4. Twovix and I Have No Bones, Yet I Must Flee. Let's start with Twovix. Who thought we were going to get a sequel to Twovix this year?
Nope.
No clue.
Right.
Nope.
I never look at the episodes ahead of time. I don't look at trailers. I don't even look at names. I
But
just turn it on
Tuvix
and watch
wasn't
it.
like hinted at all at any of this, unless
Oh
you
man,
look
it
at
caught
episode
me so
titles.
off guard.
Yeah.
And then the spelling Twovix. I just started. Lower Decks does, and I know Lower Decks does fan service and callback right. They really
Yes.
do.
Yeah.
Man, it was good. I haven't laughed that hard on a Star Trek episode in quite a while.
Yeah.
Wow. they
Last
were
time Lower
good.
Decks was on.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. If anyone out there has been thinking, man, I wish they had more Voyager references on Lower Decks, like, you're covered this week.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they only really kind of hinted toward the Voyager inclusion very recently.
Right.
There was
Oh,
a
okay.
new trailer or something like maybe 2-3 weeks ago that had that showed a little bit of Voyager and had Mariner freaking out because they were going to be on Voyager. And I'm like,
Right.
but so, going into it, I expected we would get a cameo, and I'm kind of glad that we didn't.
Yeah.
We got a lot of the ship exterior and interior, and it looked phenomenal. But I'm kind of glad that they didn't go the expected route with, I mean, at the very least, you could see the EMH making an appearance
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
because he's, essentially part of the ship's equipment. So his program should be there. So I'm kind of glad that they did. I mean, not that I don't want to see my Voyager pals, because I love them all, but I'm kind of glad that they went against expectation.
Mhm.
Or even like they made a point of that he's installed holographic things throughout
Yes.
the ship. So you could have had like a somebody hologram who's the tour guide for the Voyager experience.
Exactly.
They could have
Yeah.
easily done but they didn't. It was more like it was just a cameo for the show
Mhm.
instead of for the specific actors, and they just went deep into like the Voyager lore on it.
Yeah, they
And
did.
we did get some cameos, though,
Yeah, we did.
some characters that have appeared in Voyager before.
That's right.
Yeah,
that
and
was
this-
glorious.
Yeah, it
And
really
this
was.
is when you go to It's a Comedy. That's when you go with it, because this is a ship they get ready to turn into a museum like Disney World where you can walk on it, but they still got that crazy dangerous cheese of Neelix's. They got a freaking macrovirus on the ship. They got
Well, I don't
working-
think they knew the macrovirus was there. I think
Oh, that's true. They didn't know
I guess
that.
it has escaped detection all this time.
Yeah.
But then they had working Borg alcoves and all this stuff, and I just laughed at everything they show. I haven't laughed that much. And then they had those salamander robots. I mean, it was really truly funny.
Yeah.
I love the salamander robots. They were amazing.
And we've talked before about, now that they have all these Star Trek shows set in different eras, you can tell stories or aspects of stories across the eras.
Yep.
And it's kind of cool that now you have the decommissioning of Voyager and it going to Earth. And then on Prodigy, they had the launching of the Voyager A.
Yeah.
And then on Picard, you've got 20 years later, the Voyager is now at the museum station or whatever. And then, 32nd century, there's a Voyager J in service. And a Discovery character saying, "Man, that's a lot of generations of a ship. I'd like to know those stories." It all kind of ties together. It makes it feel like a universe, and we're just seeing little bits and pieces here and there. I think that's great.
Yeah,
absolutely. I totally agree with you, and I'm glad that's a great point.
Yeah,
seeing the ship and the name throughout all those different quote unquote generations. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, and I love how faithful they were to the look of the ship, and even when they were in things like the mess hall. There was a dude putting a pot of what was probably Neelix's Layla root stew on the thing, and he turns his nose up at it because it obviously stinks. Yeah. And then they had the mannequin that had the little chef's hat and apron that Neelix always wore on the episode. It's just great.
Yeah, and I just love seeing Chaotica again.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, and Michael Sullivan, straight out of what was the place? Was it San
Fairhaven?
Fairhaven.
Thank you. And the way he's got that accent, and he's basically, "I love you." I mean, it's just so great because that was Kate's love before. There was one episode where she lost her memory and fell in love with a guy. He was just so great to see him on there.
I like when he said, "I miss my wife."
Yes.
I guess he remembers his wife.
Yeah.
Janeway deleted her.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
And then about the plot of I mean, it's convenient that pedal made it all the way to the transporter and got transported.
Yeah,
but, but then you have the plot of sort of taking the Twovix situation and building on it.
I love that. I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah,
I did too.
To take all the senior staff and be like, they're gonna kill me. I'm gonna kill them first.
I'll make some allies.
Yeah.
Veronica, I wrote brilliant, and I thought about talking to you guys because I remember when we talked about Twovix, we went around and everybody said, did she murder him or not? And I remember Veronica strongly said yes. Yep. And I love when they even said, remember when they were saying they straight up murdered him? But then when the captain was actually looking at the history, and it's like Janeway killed him, she's like, holy crap. I thought Janeway found a way out of this. Nah, she killed him.
No.
Janeway didn't mess around.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is that obviously Boimler subtly disagrees with Mariner, and it looked like, I was waiting for a good debate scene. We didn't get it, but at least he was like, well, Let's see, real quick. Clarence says that Voyager looked beautiful, 100%.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he wishes they leaned more into the Twovix stuff. I didn't love the B plot.
Yeah, I don't think you needed the macro virus going on. It's kind of cool that what would happen if a macro virus came in contact with a Borg nanoprobe, and then you have a macro nanoprobe.
Right.
But I think that I agree with him. I think that they really could have just fleshed out more the Twovix plot. I don't think you needed the macro virus subplot.
Yeah,
I agree. It was so much going on. It felt kind of chaotic.
Yes.
I mean, I know Chaotica was in it, but
this is a reversal because I loved it as it was.
Okay,
it was so zany. It was like a Marx Brothers Three Stooges thing for me. And so, and that was the thing. It was so stupid that I just couldn't stop laughing. It was like you said, the macrovirus was insane. But I tell you, they completely caught me off guard when the guy, what was it, Tulips, almost tulips. I did not expect him to turn evil and start converting everybody. I mean, good night if that didn't catch me off guard. And that was so funny. Then he went and got one of the whales for some reason for cetacean ops.
Right on. So here's the third side of this argument. Matt Sweatman preferred the B plot to the Twovix stuff.
Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah. So in other words, this episode had something for everyone.
Well, true. Absolutely true.
It is kind of cool though. It's like the lore of a Star Trek series is just like the star of the show.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
Yes.
Having to escape
Yes.
from everything that ever happened on Voyager.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
how Tindy eventually, the way she eventually accepted, yeah, let's just split them apart because now they're the one big giant blob.
Right.
Yeah.
This isn't really a sentient being anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That makes it easier when it turns into a giant blob and you're like, oh, yeah.
Exactly. And so if you can reach that point, we're going to get into that Twovix argument again. And I know we don't need to do that. But I mean, it's the same argument.
Yeah.
If it's a non-sentient big blob of chaos, then, I would rather have my friends back.
Yeah.
But if it's a really sweet and like the best of both, best sides of both people combined into one nice person, I don't really want my friends back. That's BS, man.
Yeah, they sidestep the moral dilemma.
Yes,
exactly.
Yes, I actually wrote in my notes, what a clever way to get around the moral issue, because it's like, well, now it's this big blob of something.
Right.
You gotta save it.
Yep. Nope. I'm sorry, but I'm staying with my original argument that no, Janeway was not wrong.
You said she was not wrong.
No, she's not wrong.
Okay.
Yeah, I always felt that way too, that she wasn't wrong. It was a horrible decision to have to make, but I always kind of felt that she did the right thing.
Yep.
I think Twovix should have lived.
I'm with Chuck.
Yeah.
Evenly split down the middle.
Right. Yeah. That's
the great thing about Star Trek.
Yeah, people will be just debating that episode.
Yes.
As long as there are Star Trek fans.
Yes.
Oh, sure. And that's the great thing about it.
Yeah.
That's what makes that episode so good, is that it continues to spark debate.
Right.
Matt Sweatman chimes in by saying, I have no moral dilemma. The second I saw Twovix, I was like, kill it with fire.
Dude. Okay, Matt, just a little slower.
And Wayne is jumping ahead a little bit, so we'll come back to that one when we get to the second episode.
Yeah. Well, in this episode also, then we have the concept of the lower deckers being promoted.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Loved it.
Yeah.
I celebrated
Weimler like freaking out the entire time.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm gonna get promoted as long as I don't screw anything up. But I do that all the time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, really though, he was afraid of how it was going to affect his relationships.
Yeah, that's
It's sort of being scared of change.
Yeah.
Which is natural, I think. I mean, and for a character like Boimler, who's been very driven to be promoted, to then be looking at it and be like, oh, I don't know, I think that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
I thought it was good because a lot of times in series like Next Generation, even in the other series, especially in a comedy, the characters remain static.
Right.
And I like the fact that they're not remaining static. Even Mariner, who I mentioned in the first season, every now and kind of sort of got on my nerves just a little bit with how far she took it. I like the growth that they're showing here with everyone, because at some point in time they are going to get promoted. So I love that.
Yeah, and they could have easily gone the Simpsons route and just had them be ensigns for 30 seasons.
Exactly.
And have no time.
Yeah.
Right.
Keith, you make a very good point about season 1 Mariner, and that's a thing that we're going to talk about when we get to the second episode, because they did a very, very good callback to that first season Mariner. But we'll talk about that when we get there.
Yeah. It's great.
Matt gives us a little transition into, it looks like we have a story arc this season.
Yeah. So what do we think about this? For one, I mean, we had a return to that, I believe, the same Klingon ship from Wedge Dudge, which we also need to talk about another element of Wedge Dudge, but let's go with what Matt said first. But we have this mysterious ship popping up, blasting people. What do we think is going on here?
No clue, but I did write that it straight up murdered them, just like they said earlier about Twovix.
Right.
Yeah.
And interesting that both crews, the lower deck crews, are literally plotting to get rid of their commanding officers.
Yeah.
Which I thought was great.
Yes.
My hope is that it's a new species. It's not
Me too.
somebody familiar going to pop out of there. It's
Agreed.
not going to be the parasite worms. It's not going to be the Zinkethi. It's not going to be anybody, right? It's just somebody we've never heard of before, because I think Star Trek needs that, right? Like,
I think Star Trek does need that, but I don't think that's what Lower Decks is going to do.
No,
Lower Decks is going to give us somebody that we know but don't expect at all.
Right.
Yeah.
Like the Breen. It's going to be the Breen or some crazy nonsense like that.
I hope not. They've set up the Breen already. The Breen are going to be in at some point, I'm sure. But I mean, I would love for just to have a new major race.
I
introduced in
agree.
Star Trek.
I agree, but I think that has to be one of the live action shows.
Maybe I think.
Mm.
I mean,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised for Lower Decks to lead the way on something though, because they seem to be the most
Yeah.
creative group out there. You might be right. It might be someone familiar, but go ahead.
Matt has a suggestion.
Okay,
Maybe one of those god computers got out.
it could be Peanut Hamper.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
the one that
Agamus.
what's this? Yes.
Yeah, that Jeffrey Combs plays. That
Yes.
You're right. It could be Badgie. Could be on that ship. You know.
Badgie.
Yeah,
Yes.
it could be Badgie, Peanut Hamper, and Agamus teaming up. Who knows?
Oh,
There you go.
Yeah.
nice.
At least
Right
there
on.
it would be their own lore they're bringing back.
Yeah.
Right.
You know.
I was
Right.
even wondering if they were going to say it was something that had somehow come back from the future and with advanced tech, somebody or something,
Could
because
be.
that ship was kind of
Mhm.
interesting. It took their power down so easily,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and then blew them up. Now, do we assume that those people were dead? Everybody on those ships? I mean,
I mean, the captain's
Yeah.
chair was floating in space, so I was gonna go with dead.
Unless
Yeah.
we're beaming people over.
Right.
yeah,
Who knows?
they did show.
Right.
There was a bright light.
True.
Yeah, and they did show one of those, those cargo containers with a Klingon symbol on the sides.
Right.
I thought the configuration. Oh, this is next episode. Never
Okay.
mind. Never
Oh.
mind. But it ties into this plot.
Well,
Mm.
before we get into the next episode, let's talk about T'Lyn,
Yes.
because
Ah.
I've been waiting for T'Lyn for 2 years.
I was so happy to see her back and in a major role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was kind of afraid that she would get like Kayshawn, that she would get
Yeah.
Kayshawn, where she just is a background character and you hardly ever see. Because Kayshawn, they sort of set him up like he was going
Yes.
to be, I mean, like the new Shax, but he very quickly just became a background character. We got more of him this episode, which was nice.
Yeah.
Yes, and I loved Ransom just goes Shaka when the walls fell.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
Yeah. I love T'Lyn though. I love the actress has a great dry delivery.
Yeah.
And she's just a Vulcan. She's not a Vulcan who's going through something. She's not a
Right.
Vulcan except such and such. You know, she's just being a Vulcan, which is nice.
Yes. I thought
Agreed.
so too.
Yeah.
I thought she worked well. I enjoyed her chemistry with the rest of the group.
Like we're examining hydrogen atoms. Like hydrogen is the most common element.
Clarence loves the ship. The ship was his favorite part, and he loves when they lean into their own stories.
Yeah.
It reminded him of a more advanced version of the Future's End ship.
Could be.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know. I couldn't hazard a guess as to who it is, so you might very well be right.
Yeah.
But I'm glad to have a mystery
Yeah.
Yes.
right after they said, and there's no big space mystery or whatever.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like,
As soon as
yeah,
that, you're
cut.
like,
Right.
Yeah. One thing I did like on the show, they got really, we're talking, I think Matt didn't like the Twovix part. They were really leaning into it because when they really went like, bad, evil sci-fi movie. And when they kept coming off the thing, they said there was Captain Friggleman, and then there was Chandos, Shaburns, and then that whale thing was Schwevens or something weird like that. And they just got really stupid with the names. They started merging together. And that was so camp. I had a really good time with that. That was
Yeah.
hilarious to me.
But it's consistent with Twovix too.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
You know, I
Yes.
feel like if me and Alan got merged, they call it Challen or something. So, like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh man. Oh,
One
any
weird
more?
thing that needed to happen was, and this is a weird thought, it was so good. It was so good because I love their humor and then their science that they bring in. They're adherent to the lore.
Right.
And I literally sat there and said, man, I miss Prodigy, which is so weird. Simply
Mm.
because you see how much they can do with animation
Right.
and how much they can do when they don't have to do the live action. And I literally sat there and go, this is a great show. And then I thought, man, if only Prodigy were here. So we
Yeah.
can have two animated shows doing the stuff they do.
Right. And
Sorry. Hang on. Matt says, hang on. Challen, kill it with fire.
Alan alone. He deserves to live.
Exactly. Oh, especially since Challen is an amalgamation of the best parts of both Charles and I.
Let's
You'll
hope.
have a super person that you will absolutely love.
Absolutely delightful person.
Right.
You know, Matt.
I was merging our name, all of our various names together because
Uh-oh.
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What'd you come up
it's
with?
fun. Okay, so Chakaka.
Okay.
Chaka.
that sounds like a singer from the 70s.
It
Soul
does.
singer.
Chaka
Ronnie,
Khan.
Okay.
which sounds Klingon, so Vronith.
Yep.
Okay.
I like that.
And Aller. I don't know where I got.
Aller? Who's that? Who's the
I
other
don't
half
know.
of that?
I don't know. I don't. Yeah. I
I've
was
lost control.
because Ver. But
Oh God.
so using just the Ver and
Whoever
Alan,
it is,
Alvar.
Matt's gonna kill it.
Alvar. Yeah.
Veronica, you got to assume that your dog jumps on the transporter pad too at one point.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, Rough It.
Speaking of which, I did like the little beat where Dr. Ta'ana is like, "Why does everyone tell me about their pets?" And he's like, "Oh,
that was
Yes.
good.
Oh, that was funny.
yeah." All right. Any more thoughts on that episode before we move over into the next one?
Excellent season opener. Excellent.
Okay. Yeah, I thought it was great. Yeah, and
Yep.
then next up we had I have no bones and I must flee. I keep wanting to say, it's hard not to say the title of the Harlan Ellison story.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
yes.
it had such a TOS ring to it.
It
Right.
did.
Yeah.
It
I
was
really
like,
loved it.
yes. Yes. It was Shakespearean.
It's too bad Harlan's not here to sue him.
Oh God.
But you know what? The opening, the first thing that jumped out at me this episode. Did you see that Romulan ship?
That's what I was going to say
That
earlier. The
Romulan-
configuration of the Romulan ship was really cool.
Because it's based on the original concept art for the Doderidex, where it was vertical, where Andrew Poper's original design was vertical, and they ended up flipping it horizontal. And so there's been
Oh.
fan versions of that for 30 years.
Oh,
It's also
I didn't know that. That's a super deep cut.
yeah, it's actually
I
on
love it.
on the show, which is cool.
Yeah.
Which is
I
great.
thought
That
it
they're looking
looked
at
really cool.
concept art.
Yeah, and it had a very Star Wars look to it because Star Wars will orient their ships in a kind of particular way sometimes.
Right.
And I thought it looked really, really cool. I loved it.
Yeah.
At first I was like, why are they flying sideways? Which of course there is no sideways in
Right.
space.
Yeah.
But
But
yeah, I thought it looked super cool.
But then just from a world building perspective too, I mean, this is the Romulan Empire still chugging along, still churning out new ships. They haven't
Yeah.
met any disasters yet.
Yeah.
I thought it was great. And I loved the scene with the Romulans.
They were hilarious.
Yeah.
We're cleaning up our torture chamber, and now we're plotting, and we're arguing about who has the best plot to kill the captain.
Right. I would love to see you die, sir, but not like this.
Just like the Klingons, they were plotting to take out their captain. I thought it was
Right.
hilarious.
Just take care of this so I can get back to being suspicious. That was good.
Oh, it seemed a little too mirror universe
Okay.
to me.
Okay.
You know, I don't know. But I still loved it. I still laughed at it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like seeing the Romulans. And I like seeing the Romulans just being the Romulans.
Yeah.
I do. I mean, just as an aside, I would still like to see more of the Romulan refugee storyline that was dropped in Picard. But
Definitely.
yeah, but it is nice to see the Romulans as they were next gen DS9 era. You know.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, they went to a space menagerie that had scooped up some humans. I guess this happens somewhat regularly.
They just blend in with all the other bipedals.
Yeah, they had a bunch of bipedals and some humans got mixed up in them.
Right.
What do we think of the menagerie?
It was fun.
Yeah.
It was a good episode. I thought it was very enjoyable. Matt Sweatman says, first there was Baby Groot, then there was Baby Yoda, now there is Moopsy.
Right. I don't know if Moops will
Moopsy.
have quite the popularity of the first two
No.
examples, but it'd be nice if he did.
Yeah.
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 I think you'd have to have a Moopsy as a recurring character.
Yeah. Right.
Moopsy
That's
was
one of-
so funny.
Yes.
Just the fact that he only ever said Moopsy
Yeah.
just cracked me up.
The juxtaposition of this litit looks like it should be a cartoon character's like comic sidekick character.
Yeah.
And then it just like is vicious. Which
Yeah.
I mean, it
Like-
fits with Star Trek.
Yeah.
That happens in
Yeah.
Star Trek.
Yeah.
He looks like
the tribbles
Kirby
are
or
dangerous.
something.
Huh?
Right. He looks like Kirby or something, and then that mouth just opens up, and it was pretty wild.
Right.
I did chuckle early when they did the scene with Ransom and Strax where they were doing
Yes.
the yoga
Oh
stuff and
my
they had those
God.
awful
Dude.
uniforms on, those costumes.
That was one of the
Dude.
scenes I've been looking forward to because that was
Yeah.
in the trailers. And,
Right.
Yeah.
They're wearing Beverly and Deanna's workout outfits, basically.
That was ridiculous.
It was.
It's ridiculous for the ladies too. So
I know. I totally agree.
yeah.
It's
Yeah,
just
it was
funny
great.
that was the callback that they decided to make. That's
Right.
hilarious.
and then they were
Yes.
going for chocolate shakes after.
Yeah.
Cheat day.
Right. Yeah. And you're talking about Mariner, about the throwback to season 1 Mariner, because
Mhm.
as
Yes.
this was going, my first thought was like, oh, this is back to the Mariner I don't like. 'Cause
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
like disruptive Mariner. But go ahead with what
Mhm.
your thought was that you held earlier.
Well, Keith was talking about how disruptive she was in the first season. And now we see why. And we see that it's a pattern of behavior for her. And we find out that it's not necessarily intentional. She's learning this week that, yes, that actually is a pattern of behavior for me. Why do I do that?
Mm.
I thought that was so interesting.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Man,
Yeah,
I
it's
thought it was
too.
good.
And it's not often you watch I mean, there's a lot of cartoons where there's characters who have irritating traits, right? They're over the
Right.
top, they're annoying or whatever.
Right.
But then to see that character going through like introspection as the show goes along and learning
Yeah.
about themselves and
Yeah.
growing is
Yeah.
it's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you
Yeah.
rarely get that in a live action show, much less a cartoon.
Right.
Absolutely. And that's why it put me in mind of Prodigy, because here you have 2 cartoons where the characters are actually growing and changing.
Yeah.
And like what you guys were saying earlier, they could have left them as lower deck ensigns for the entire run of the entire series, but they're not doing that. And I love that.
Yeah, because that would have been part of the joke,
Mm-hmm.
you know? I mean,
Right.
the whole setup for Disco was that the focus of the show was going to be on the first officer and
Mhm.
not the captain. And, by the time that we've reached the 3rd season, she's a captain.
Yeah.
And they've kind of
Mhm.
like she's taken that journey, but they've also flipped the expectations for that show. The thing
Yeah.
that was the standout uniqueness of the launch of that show no longer existed.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then as Boimler points out though, they're still lower decks. They're still the lowest ranking
Exactly.
mid-level officers. So they're
Yes.
it's not like they suddenly became captains or something. Like they're still
Right.
doing the grunt work. And that seemed like a reassurance, like the show's not changing,
Exactly.
Yeah.
evolving
Yeah.
a bit. But I think that's good. I think I would like to see these characters grow. I'd love to watch this show until they are all captains.
But just
Absolutely.
remember, between seasons 1 and 2 of TNG, Geordi went from ensign junior grade all the way up to lieutenant commander to take in charge of, because they didn't have a chief engineer character and they needed to make one. And they're like, well, let's just use the guy we already have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, Worf did the same sort of thing where he jumped to
Yep.
security chief.
Yeah. And
Yep.
this is a show, because it's a cartoon, because it's comedic. This is a show where I could literally see the entire series finale be like a 10, 15-year time jump where you see them as officers.
Yeah.
And it would work, and it sticks, not an alternate future, but literally just, 15 years later, and they're all commanders and captains and so forth.
Yeah.
I could see that working.
Knowing them, they would riff on all good things in the process.
Yeah, right.
Right.
That'd be amazing.
I got a kick out of when Boimler went to his quarters, which for some reason they have the strangest quarters on that ship where they put people. It's like right over the nacelle.
Yep.
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at the ship, though, there are windows that point right at the nacelle. I've always thought that they should do that because if you look at like the Enterprise D,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of windows that are just like the floor is the window.
Yes.
I would love if one of his quarters was like the entire floor is the window, and he's trying to like sleep on his bed. I thought that was cute. I mean, you would think Boimler would know that you can adjust the window
Right.
to filter out the
Right.
guard. But I did like the idea because it's kind of like your first apartment where like there's a neon sign outside that just shines in.
Yeah.
It's that old cliche. So I did like playing into that because I mean on the ship, on the models of the ships from the show, there are windows where like, oh, that guy's just looking right at the Bassard collector. He's got a terrible view.
And in his box of stuff was the recruiting poster, that evidently the #1 recruiting poster.
Mhm.
Because you saw the
plate.
Astra title.
Yeah.
And then he was babbling about the Mirror Universe Captain Archer.
He had a
action
doll of
figure.
And he had the Paris plate.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
Clarence says that he loved the Boimler stuff in this episode. Truly funny.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, he was.
Matt Sweatman says you can take the characters out of the lower decks, but you can't take the lower decks out of the characters.
That's
Truth.
right.
And Matt continues by saying, I hope the lower decks finale riffs on These Are the Voyages. Oh
That would
my
be
gosh.
awesome.
Wouldn't that be freaking hilarious?
I
That
can
would be
see that
great.
happening.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it was a fun episode. I like that you had a little, I mean, it's been a recurring thing on the show of Ransom and Mariner, of that
Yeah.
dynamic. And
Mhm.
I like that they took that to the next step.
Yes.
Right.
And I mean, we had the whole subplot with Rutherford.
Yeah,
Yeah. That was, I mean, that was
that was
interesting.
hilarious.
Yeah. Leaving off the last episode with him not getting promoted.
Right.
Yeah. He's like, it's fine. I'll just get promoted today.
Right.
Yeah,
And then
how
you
does that
find
work?
out.
Do they not
Yeah.
have certain times when they do? I mean, they just throw them whenever they want?
I don't know, but I guess you can't. They don't have enough pips for. What was it? Not Lundley. What was his name?
Levick or something. like that?
Yeah, they didn't have
Levick.
enough pips for him and Rutherford to get promoted. I guess 'cause he's like,
That
nope, sorry.
was so strange.
I know.
Like, where did that guy
Yeah.
come from?
I don't know.
The 1990s college comedy, sorority fraternity comedy, because they literally were doing the shaking the fist like you used to do in those
Right.
bad comedies. And I thought it was funny at the end, which again, this is when it was hilarious, is when they basically said he's turned down all those promotions. She's like, well, can he have one of those promotions for whatever? He goes, yeah, sure, here you go.
He had
yeah.
to save his ship quite a few times.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, just that situation at the end of
Yes.
season 1,
Mm-hmm.
when the Packlet situation, you'd think you'd get a promotion off of that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But now we find out he's been turning him down because he
Yeah.
was
Right.
hanging out with Tendi.
But I
Yeah.
loved his like continually trying to do something to get noticed, and the other guy always did it first, and he'd be like, "Love it," and then at the end, when the promotion got taken away from that guy, he was like, "Rutherford, and also Tindy."
Right. Yeah. I'm glad they resolved that, though. I'm glad they didn't just leave Rutherford and Ensign. I mean,
Yeah.
you could've
Me
done that too. But
Yeah,
and I like the idea of Rutherford and Boimler being roomies.
Yes, because I'd like to see more of them together. Because it's always
Yeah.
been Boimler, Mariner,
Right.
and
Yeah.
Tindy and Rutherford.
right.
So hoping we're gonna get a little mix up of that.
Kind of
this
like
year.
when Nog and Jake were roommates.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't
Mhm.
get along.
No,
Yeah.
I did
it's gonna be
chuckle
funny to
when
watch.
Yeah.
I did chuckle when Boimler realized, he says, who puts a room between two different whatever holodecks?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you hear that weird stuff going on the one, and then you hear stuff and then was the captain was say as president of the entire federation or something like that. And then the other side, evidently the doctor likes to kill, I don't know what, Robin Hood or something.
Peter Pan?
The sheriff. Yeah,
No,
Peter
Rob-
Pan. That's it. Yeah.
No, he said chopped off Peter Pan's head.
Oh, was it? I thought they were playing Robin Hood.
Well, I thought they were playing
They
Robin
were-
Hood too, but Boimler
They
said
were.
chopping off Peter Pan's head.
No, maybe she does that too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they were, because at first Strack said something like you shouldn't have done whatever you did to either Robin Hood or the sheriff of Nottingham.
Right.
And then later they talked about Peter Pan. So evidently she has this thing for getting really violent in the
Tights and a little cap, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. You would think that the holodecks would be better soundproofed, though.
Yeah.
Thank you.
They
That's
have to be.
exactly what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Like,
They
how
have
thin
to be.
can walls be on a starship? First
Right.
of all, but also you know that those things are soundproof.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to use one if it wasn't soundproofed.
Thank you.
That's for darn sure.
Right. Oh, yeah. But it was a good pair of episodes this week.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
thought so
Fun.
too.
Yeah. A nice setup for the season-long mystery. I hope it's not the Gorn.
Yeah.
Oh God.
I know, right?
Please no
How
Gorn,
funny.
unless it's Gorn wedding again. I'm
Right.
good with Gorn wedding, but other than that, no.
Yeah.
And you guys had referenced earlier, I really did like the little discussion between Mariner and Ransom where she was getting really defensive. And you said, he was like, you do this. And she goes, no, I don't. And she, oh, I do that. And he
Yeah.
just kind of looked at her. And then, of course, being lower decks, he has to start doing pull-ups,
Hmm.
feel the burn. So, they got to throw
Right.
that stuff in there when he was doing that in the other episode, when he actually promoted her, she first protested. But I like that because it is incredibly difficult to manage to balance humor and drama and action. And they
Yeah.
do it incredibly well. I'm still incredibly impressed with how well they balance all that out.
Mhm.
So
I really like
truly
the
enjoyed that.
it's not really
Mhm.
I really the not shot, but the image where he appeared on her badge, on her little pip.
The
He's like,
reflection.
I'm the best. You have the best officer ever.
Yeah. Yeah, that was nice.
It's like he was the pip.
That was really cool.
He's a pip, all right.
Yeah. Well, I guess. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry.
Got comments?
Only a couple.
Okay.
Matt Sweatman says he forgot to mention cleaning the holodeck. Ew.
Mhm.
Oh
And-
yeah.
And Wayne says soundproofing wasn't in the script.
True.
Correct.
You're
Yeah.
right, Wayne. And ironic, Wayne, that you guys talked about the soundproof, because if you remember in TNG, the transporter room was lined with what is in real life soundproofing foam initially. So we know they got stuff to soundproof with. But it was a great bit. This is one time I was just able to relax with the silliness of it and kind of go with. Like you guys are saying, you're not going to build a room over the nacelle and not have a way to dim the lights of the windows or whatever. So,
Right.
but it was just silly. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
just funny.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah. Well, I guess for the next few weeks, we're going to have some additional Star Trek to talk about.
Yeah.
Because starting
Yeah.
tomorrow, for one, tomorrow we've got the Star Trek Day stream hosted
Yeah.
by Jerry O'Connell, but also they're debuting the very short treks.
Yes.
Those
Mhm.
it starts tomorrow, and then I think it's on Wednesdays, like noonish, for the next several weeks. So we'll have some very short treks to discuss in addition to Lower Decks.
Very cool.
Yeah.
You know, every year so far, I miss Star Trek Day, and I always think I got to remember next time to like request that day off. Well, this year it falls on my regularly scheduled day off,
Awesome.
so I get to watch all of it tomorrow. I'm very excited.
Yeah. I won't be able to watch it live because it's in the middle of the workday, but
yeah,
I'll watch it over the weekend though. I'm glad they're doing something, and I'm glad they had the foresight to film something before the strike.
Mhm.
yeah,
So that there is something. Obviously, there won't be the big. They've been doing the big to do, where you have all the actors and everything. Obviously, you can't do that this year, but I'm glad we're getting something, and I'm glad they're really leaning into the Star Trek animation. They
Yeah.
just announced. I just shared in our group like moments before the podcast that there's a new line of like merchandise
ooh,
for the animated series, and one of them was a T-shirt that says "Kirk is a jerk" on the back.
really?
I haven't looked through them yet. I really had just saw it right before we got on here, so I shared it to our group.
Oh,
But,
how fun! That's
yeah.
awesome.
I like that they're celebrating the animated series, and I'm hoping that I will like their tributes to the animated series, because I wasn't super encouraged by the trailer, but I'm not counting it out. I'm just
Yeah.
The point of a trailer is to get a reaction from you, and it got a reaction from
Exactly.
me, but maybe not the one that they were.
And I'm sure that they throw out the weird images to get you to talk and share.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that there's a good script behind it. There's a good explanation for everything that we have seen. So I think it's going to be. I have hope. I mean, I don't think it's going to be bad.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got faith, Alan?
I got faith of the heart.
Good.
You know I do.
You have more than I have, so
No,
we'll see. I'm hoping
yeah.
to be pleasantly surprised by them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we know how many it is?
I think it's like 5 of them or something.
Okay.
And there's a whole litany of actors who are appearing
Okay.
or doing voice work for it.
Okay.
And it's being
Excellent.
produced by his name Casper Kelly, the guy who
Mhm.
did the viral series Too Many Cooks. Okay.
What? I
Okay.
don't know what that is. Sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, his claim to fame so far with Star Trek has been that in that Tribbles episode, that Tribbles short trek, he
Mhm.
did the Tribbles cereal commercial at the end.
Oh,
That's his contribution
Interesting.
to Star Trek up to this point. And so
oh,
this-
that's
it's-
fun.
Interesting.
Okay.
So,
Well, I'm glad that he's been embraced and brought on board to do more. I think that's great.
okay.
Okay.
Well, Alan, where can people find more of you?
Well, wait, hang on. Matt says that they're hoping for a trip retcon. We'll see, buddy.
Yeah.
I think that's
Okay,
an easy
well,
one.
I've got another little podcast on this here ESO network, and it's called Modern Musicology. And we just put out an episode celebrating the 50th anniversary of one of the greatest albums ever recorded, and that is Dark Side of the Moon. Our next episode, and it's crazy to me to think of both of these things happening basically at the same time. The next episode is celebrating the 50th anniversary of the birth of hip hop.
Okay.
And after that, we have an interview with an up and coming band called Sleepy Kitty. Super excited about that. And then I've got this other little podcast called Doctor Who A to Z. So we just did a Dragon Con recap, and people should go and check that out. Actually, the Doctor Who that episode comes out tomorrow. So, which for those listening back on the podcast, that would be September 8th.
Right. 2023. If you're a
Yes.
future historian listening to our podcast.
Exactly. And now, if you'll excuse me, I have to go kill the sheriff of Nottingham for being a little bleep face. That was going to be my opening if Keith went with Moopsie. So I had to get it in there somewhere.
All right. Well, Keith, where can people find more of you?
You can find me on X and Instagram and Facebook, primarily the ESO Network Facebook groups. And one thing I want to mention too, just piggyback on Alan said, because I didn't do it at the beginning. Obviously, people listening to this know, but tomorrow, September 8th, is the 57th anniversary of the original series, which is why we're talking about Star Trek Day, and the 50th anniversary of the animated series, which premiered 7 years to the day after the original series. So I'll probably do some posting about that.
Yeah.
And we talked about this and we did a show with our sister show, the ESO Network. There are still people who are Star Trek fans who haven't seen the animated series. Yes, it has horrible animation. Yes, they have a lot of mistakes, but you will make yourself very happy if you watch it, because it's some of the best Star Trek, honestly, you will ever get watching that animated series. Trust me on that. For those of you who are still like, it's great. Really.
Speaking of that, I want to bring up that, and I think this got shared on our Facebook group, but somebody cosplayed that one cell from the animated series where it's Nurse Chapel in her blue uniform with one red sleeve. They painted one sleeve wrong. It's red, and somebody cosplayed that.
Yeah.
And
I showed that.
Charles, you posted that, right?
That was on my Facebook. I shared that.
Oh, that's great.
Monumentally creative.
I'll go back and share it to the group, because
please do. That is just amazing.
That's a great cosplay.
That is great.
And then speaking of Star Trek Day, I was going to say, if you're a super nerd, Star Trek actually debuted on September 6th in Canada. So we're celebrating the wrong day.
Right.
If you're an Orthodox Trekkie.
Orthodox.
Orthodox Trekkie. Okay, we got to use that now.
Love it.
All right. And Veronica, we have an announcement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just launched our YouTube series.
Yeah, the Felt Nerdy YouTube channel is live now with content. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I've been sitting on some videos that we'd filmed for Hulanta and other things during the pandemic, and I hadn't released them yet because I kept thinking I'd go back and revisit them, that kind of thing. But then they wanted to show them at that screening at Dragon Con. I said, well, what better time? So the first video is up. So if you look for Felt Nerdy on YouTube and subscribe, like, share, give us a break. We're trying to get this thing started. But yeah, the first video is up. We'll have a few weeks of having some video content up there. And we're gonna start filming some new stuff to get on there as well.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Veronica, where can people find more of you?
So you can find me specifically as Dabo Woman on Facebook and TikTok. Dabo Woman 8 on both of those, technically, not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 8.
I think you're just Dabo Woman on Facebook, but you're 8 on TikTok.
No,
am I wrong about that?
No, I think because you have to make your little username thing, and Dabo Woman was created. The
Okay.
page is Dabo Woman, but
Okay.
like the little URL thing, yeah.
Okay.
And I have a good bit of Star Trek content on my TikTok, and I filmed the Anson Melt talking about the strike at Dragon Con. Not that video's gotten a little bit of traction, so check that out. And of course, the Double Women Facebook page is kind of our it's primarily me, but our more adult puppetry content, and nerdy content.
Right, and that's the not safe for work. So
yes, not safe for work.
Okay.
There's 2 videos on my TikTok that are not safe for work that are puppets.
Yeah.
But go check those out because those are also
dirty
hilarious.
videos.
Yes.
All right, where can people find both of us?
Feltnerdy.com.
And
Monkeying Around, a podcast about the monkeys.
Yep, we've got some fun episodes coming up. We took a little break for a couple of weeks because of the Dragon Con and everything, but we're all about to go together to see a performance of Beautiful the Carole King musical, and we'll do a review of that.
Oh,
and
nice.
then we're going to talk to some fans who were at the Monkey Men, which is the tribute, the big new tribute act, and so we're going to get some reaction from some folks who actually saw the show, and they've got some audio they're going to let us share and that sort of thing. So
oh wow,
that should be a fun episode. We got a few things in cooking, so check out Monkeying Around. It's a good time to do that.
Very nice.
And do you have a closing for us this week?
Moopsie.
Oh, that was his intro though.
That doesn't matter.
It's been done.
You could do Moopsie as much as you want because Moopsie is at everything.
Okay. Well, everyone, join us live next Thursday. We go live talking about Lower Decks, or after Lower Decks, it'll be just about Star Trek. So join us live Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on YouTube or our Facebook group, search for Earth Station Trek. It's fun, and you can throw in your comments and join the conversation.
Right
My
on.
dog is
Thanks.
going to be Moopsy for Halloween.
Thanks for joining us live, everybody. Wayne and Matt and Clarence and everyone. We really appreciate you joining us live every week.
Yes, absolutely. It's great to have the interaction and the support from
Yes.
you guys. We really do appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And then before we go, no, our dog is going to be that dog from The Enemy Within. I've already called that.
Yes.
So,
All right. I
you
love
can have
it.
Moopsy
But
next
this
year.
one, no, but this one's a more recent reference.
Yeah, I don't care.
All right, y'all. Everybody take care. Have a good week. See you next Thursday.
Bye.